Dante wrote, "The path to paradise begins in hell." Join Deacon Don Prendergast and David Fortin as they discuss the tools men need to build the domestic church and the spiritual weapons to defend it. This is Through the Fire.
Okay, thank you everybody for participating into this special interview moment with Through the Fire. Today I'm celebrating the 25th anniversary with the Punisher's Law Enforcement Motorcycle Club, and we're here in the great state of Arkansas. And if I've heard the numbers correctly, we have over 1,000 participants.
Good.
19 countries, over 196 chapters. So it's a big organization. It's the biggest law enforcement motorcycle club in the world. And motorcycle clubs kind of get a bad rap. And but the work that this motorcycle club does is just unbelievable. So today I'm joined with two members of what's known as the 31st chapter. And we'll talk a little bit about exactly what the 31st chapter is. But we have the 31st chapter president, Fish, and we have the 31st chapter communications board member, Doc. And so just want to thank you both for participating in this. You know, the Through the Fire podcast has an intention of kind of twofold. We recognize that we live in a world today where men are kind of demonized for being men. So much of masculinity and manliness is suppressed as toxic. But the truth is, God created us to be leaders, protectors, and providers. And so what I wanted to talk today a little bit about is kind of how you do that in your own life and how the 31st chapter provides service to its members and the family of those members. And so, Fish, if you want to just introduce yourself a little bit.
My name is, my real name is Fish. The chairperson for the 31st chapter. Been in this club for about 8 years now. I took over the 31st chapter about 2 years ago. And where we're at now, can I start with
Yeah, absolutely. Come start at the beginning.
What
is the 31st chapter?
Well, the 31st chapter is what we do for our brothers' widows. When our brothers pass away, rather from a motorcycle accident or just as a normal, accident, whatever, we take care of the widows and their family. We make sure that they have the means to get help from us when their husband's not around. They become part of our 31st chapter. They're never forgotten. They'll be a part of us for the rest of our lives. We'll be there. I'll be there. Doc will be there one day. But we're here to help the families of our fallen brothers. That's what.
So it sounds to me like it's a kind of benevolent association. So if there are needs as far as paying the light bill, or a car breaks down,
Correct.
Or putting food in the refrigerator.
Correct. We work off of donations only. So we urge all of our chapters to do donations and do fundraising for the 31st chapter. We build up the funds as much as we can, and because we don't keep that money. That money goes back to the widows and their family. So if we have a widow that maybe has a kid going to school and she can't afford the books, they'll come to us and they'll say, "Listen, I need help. I can't afford the books for my son or my daughter. Can you guys help us?" We'll buy the books for them. We also had incidents where the widow's car broke down. She can't afford fixing her air conditioning, whatever. She comes to us. We pay for it. We get it fixed. We get it done. We try to make their lives easier because we're that's what it's all about, taking care of our brother. Regardless if he's here, he's here with us in our hearts, and he's a part of our chapter, the 31st chapter. So we're always going to take care of the widows. Always.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of biblical significance to this. We read in the Bible that one of the earliest stories of Cain and Abel, and what happens when you don't take care of one another. And, we know the story. Cain kills Abel, and then, Cain is approached as to where's your brother Abel, and his answer is, "Am I my brother's keeper?" It suggests that I'm going to look out for myself, and everybody else should just leave me alone. But it sounds like the 31st chapter, and the Punishers for that matter, is the exact opposite. You are your brother's keeper. And when there is a need, then that's time to show up and to help out.
Absolutely.
It's interesting also because we live in a society today where it seems as though there's so much individualism, it creates isolation, and everybody is kind of left stranded. But it sounds also like the 31st chapter goes out of their way to make sure no one is left behind.
Correct.
No one is forgotten. And that being part of this organization also means that should your spouse, should your husband die prematurely or even of old age, it doesn't change the fact that we're all still family.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this question. Have you seen any difficulty in the Punishers being generous in donating to the 31st chapter?
None. I mean, the Punishers listen, what makes this club what I think the best club in the world is that what we do for our fallen brothers, our families, and, we're a service to others. So it's not just only our family, but it's other families that are in need. And once we get a hold of that there's a family in need, what we do is unbelievable. I mean, we raise money, we make sure that they're taken care of, whether your kid's being bullied or your daughter has cancer. We do what we can to raise money to make it easier on their lives. And I think that's what separates us from all the other LEMCs. I mean, we all have our different, what drives us is different, but what drives me is the brotherhood that we have and our 31st chapter, our 9/11 funds, the fact that we're always giving back all the time. We're always giving back. And that's what means more to me than anything. It's what we do for people,
So that kind of throws the stereotype of motorcycle clubs out the window.
Yeah.
People have this image of motorcycle clubs as being, outlaw bikers and skirting the law, and I don't care about the rules. It's all for me, doing illegal stuff. So the Punishers is nothing like that.
Oh, absolutely nothing. We're totally the opposite. I mean, listen, I walked into restaurants and with our guys, and I see some people kind of like hesitant, and I start conversations with them, and they'll be like, "Oh, you guys are a law enforcement motorcycle club? Yeah, we're here to have a good time with our brothers and stuff, and you guys are more than happy to go look at our bikes or whatever." And we spark up conversations with them to make them feel at ease and explain to them what an LEQ means and what we're all about. And surprisingly enough, that they're like, "Oh my God, that's amazing! It's really cool. I like the way you guys are doing things. We really appreciate you guys. I give them a website, let them know to look us up, and to change the image of what people think. But everywhere we go, I mean, we spread the news.
So it's really a very important positive image to maintain.
Yes, always.
Doug, you're responsible in the 31st chapter of reaching out to the families and to the presidents of individual chapters.
Yes.
What's that process like when a brother Punisher passes away and you make that first phone call?
Well, like you said, the first line of defense is fish. And he gets the notice that brother's passed away. So he'll call me and text me and say, "We have one for you. Here's the president," and I'll reach out to the president. What I always try to do is I try it for myself, and this is because of the spiritual background that I have, is bring God with me, and which is no judgment, just an open heart and an open mind, and to be there for somebody. How can we be of service? How can we help you? We go on the pretense motto in the Punishers is love and service to others. So that's our service, to open up our hearts and say, "We're here for you. What can we do for you?" And so for me, it's not personal. I feel as part of the 31st and an honor to be able to use myself and to do service to these widows and families that have just had a tragedy in their life. And so that's my part. And it feels pretty much empowering, because the power comes from my higher power, God. It's not myself. I have nothing to do with it. I'm just a channel.
And so what has been the response of the families and the individual chapters when they are brought into the 31st family?
Yep. So normally what I do when I speak to a widow and the widows, they feel a sense of comfort, and I kind of get that from most of them. A feel of belonging, because that's the first thing they lose. They feel that they're going to lose their identity to the club and to their family, because they've been deluged with identity for most of their lives. So what we try to do is let them know that, hey, you're still part of us. We're here for you, and whatever it takes, this is what we do. And so my experience with everybody has been very receptive, and just feel comforted, and that's, if we can do that and reach out and make that connection with that next widow or that family member, we've done our part, and that's what the whole process of this is.
And how many families, how many brother punishers are there enrolled in the 31st chapter?
I believe to date is roughly around 80 brothers. When I came in, there was only 26. So it's been quite a few over the last few years.
And I understand this past year has been particularly tough. We had
Yes.
a bunch of brothers, for a variety of different reasons,
Yes.
were enrolled in the 31st chapter.
Yes.
Of the 80 that are enrolled in the 31st chapter, about how many families are still actively involved?
So what we've done is I have created a web page, and it's called the Families of the 31st. And what that does is, as a psychologist and counselor, is it creates something called mutual aid. Okay, mutual aid is that anybody who's experienced trauma or death or a loss in their family get to talk with other people of that capacity. And it makes them feel together and identify with one another rather than feeling unique and out of sorts. So by having them talk to each other, they form a bond. And it's another bond, an extension of what they had in Punishers 31st. And it works well. And one of the nicest things is, we get to kind of inform them of things that are going on throughout the Punisher world, and allow them to still feel part of, and that we still love them.
And have you gotten positive feedback from the families themselves?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of times, I have a special talent. I'm a psychologist, so usually the first couple of weeks, I'm doing counseling, at night, and widows are calling me and they want to talk, and we do some grief counseling. And then of course, the experience for them is like a relief, like they got someone to talk to. And just to mention that, the 31st now, we just brought in a new member, which is Deacon himself, who's actually an ordained deacon in the Catholic Church. So he's just going to be an addition to our spiritual connection. And I thank Fish because, I told him about you, and Fish was like, that's a good idea. And so he, made it work, made it happen. And that's just going to make this whole process expand.
Well, yeah, it's definitely a worthwhile program, and I'm sure in future episodes I'll be speaking a whole lot more about the Punishers as an organization, but especially also the mission of the 31st chapter. I want to switch gears a little bit. One of the main thrusts of this podcast is to speak about, how we as men rely upon and take advantage of our faith in God to get through the really difficult times. And so, Doc, if you don't mind, let me start with you. Where does faith play a role in your life? And can you point to an incident, if you will, of how, man, if you didn't have God in your life, if you weren't able to lean on Jesus, as Jesus not only comes to you in faith and religion, but also, as we know, comes to you in the strength of others?
And this is very apparent because my upbringing is spiritual. It's also, religious as far as Catholicism goes. And started out just as a Christian, but what I've always experienced with my higher power and God is that, just having a little bit of faith, believing in something other than what I'm thinking in my head, or believing in something else that I have no control over. And I always think of in the scriptures of Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1 through 4, and it states that faith is a substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. And so by me carrying that belief, and it's a belief for me, I believe that things happen beside what I think of how they're going to work. And I believe that my higher power, God, always has this. When I'm working with other people, I don't feel like it's me. I feel like I'm that conduit or that messenger. I'm doing His work, and I'm not a religious guru. I'm just a faith-based Christian, and I just try to live it. I can talk it, but living it is the experience that I have with individuals. And using the 31st, it's just another way of me practicing that belief and bringing it into it. And as a man, it's always good to serve something. I know how to serve destruction. I've had that in my early years. I'm not ashamed to disclose that I'm an alcoholic in recovery. And the first thing that was told to me when I came into recovery back in 1987 was that, you got to find a God in your life. And people say, oh, that's such a, damaging thing. No, it's not. I've had a life ever since with 36 years this September of sobriety. Having the faith in that God brought me away from the bottle and the destruction and the drugs and the chaos and brought me into a life worth living. And so that's why I use the faith-based lifestyle, because it helps me help others. And it's not about me anymore. 31st is not about me. It's about us collectively. It's about the mission.
Well, I've heard it said that, as a species, as a people, we were created to worship. Either we're going to worship God, or we're going to worship ourselves, or we're going to worship money, or we're going to worship sex. But we are a species that worships. And so we can pick and choose those aspects of worship that are constructive or destructive. And so, yeah, absolutely. Fish, how about you?
Excuse me. Well, for me, it's a little different. I'm not the type of person that goes to church and and stuff like that. But my family is all pastors. They're all about church. I'm probably like the black sheep that doesn't go to church. All my family has always been a church person.
But I know for a fact you're a faithful man.
Oh yeah, I'm 100% faithful. I just, I don't know. For me, it's a little different. My upbringing has been a lot different. I've always had to be the one to try to make the money for my mom, my two sisters to survive. We were a poor family. It was just my mom, my two sisters, and myself. And my thing, I've always had to work. Even when I was 13, 14, 15 years old, always work. And bring money to the house, and I wasn't able to, to see other things, because my focus was always on trying to make money. But my two nephews joined the Marine Corps. My other nephew joined the Army, and they were chaplains in the Marine Corps, chaplain in the Army. When they got out, they went to college for whatever what's that called?
Masters in Divinity.
Yes, and now they're trying to open up their own church and stuff, and and they always talk to me about God, and we're always talking that that's the faith that we have. My sister, God rest her soul, she passed away 3 years ago. She's had cancer since she was 23 years old. She died at the age of 53, 2 weeks before her birthday. But her life was all about God, and that's where I got my thing from her, because seeing her go through cancer seeing her suffer, seeing her go through all the treatments for all those years, and she had faith, and she knew she was going to make it. She knew she was going to make the next one. She knew she was going to survive, and and that's what got me more into God. Seeing her faith, and seeing what she believed in, and even in her deathbed when she was going, she was asking God to take her. She was ready, and I couldn't accept it, because I couldn't understand it, but I could understand her, and of course, all my nephews were there, my nieces, and they're all in the church, and they're all praising, and they're singing and doing all the thing, and I'm like, and I'm the one that was the opposite, I was like, I was the one trying not to cry, I couldn't sing, and I was the one that was like freaking out, kind of, and watching them, praise God, and the church always coming in and singing to my sister. I was confused, but I get it, I got it, I mean, it was hard for me, but I understand it now. But my way of giving back and trying to do the right thing is doing good things for people, being a better person, always trying to do the right thing. Always try to help my brothers, my sisters, my family, being there for them. To me, that's kind of like the work of God, by giving back and always trying to do the right thing, trying to help whoever. And that's always been the way I've always been. I give and I give and I give. I don't like receiving, I like to give. And, and what made me love the 31st chapter more is the team that we have. We all try to find ways to make the widows more comfortable. I mean, our team finds ways of financially helping these widows, giving them other avenues to receive more money by looking at other avenues and finding other things for them to benefit from. But I just feel like I'm working with God, and I feel like I'm giving back, and I feel like I'm doing the right thing, and I feel like He's leading me in some ways.
Well, there's one of the things that we know that Jesus says in the Bible is He says, "I give to you a new commandment: love one another.
Yep.
Therefore, by loving one another, all will know that you are my disciples." And so it's important, and it sounds to me like at different points in all of our lives, we've been confronted with a choice. We could either behave hopeless or hopeful. And it seems to be, at least I know in my own experience, and it sounds like in your experiences, hope definitely comes from above.
Yes.
And I think it's a beautiful thing that the 31st chapter exists, because it sounds like that's what the real mission is.
Yes.
To provide hope, to sustain hope, and to make it known that no one is forgotten.
Absolutely.
So I just want to thank both of you very much for spending this time with me. Those of you that are watching and listening, thank you very much for checking this out. Like I said, there's going to be, I'm sure, many more instances where I share with you my motorcycle club life, and this is a very, very big part of it, along with many other people. I would like to ask, if you could, to visit the website, the Punishers Worldwide website, and scroll through the drop downs until you see 31st chapter. If you click on that, you'll find an opportunity where you can donate to the 31st chapter. They are a registered 501c organization. And so from Through the Fire, with the support and the work of my partner, David Fortin, and Spirit of Life Radio Network, thank you very much, and God bless you all.
The preceding program was a Spirit of Truth Radio Arts original program for CastingThe.net.